Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Mel Carmine Show. I am your host here today, Elisa V, and we've got another great show for you. We are about to embark on part two with our special guest, Tom Althouse, who is the original writer of The Matrix, and today's episode is entitled The Steal. So stay tuned. We're going to jump right into that and talk a lot about that with Tom. But just a couple of things I wanted to just mention to you guys, as always. If you weren't able to make it to the Quantum Summit 2, which took place on March 8th and 9th earlier this month, and Tom, our guest today, was one of our premier speakers at this event. He actually spoke for 2 days. You're going to want to go to quantumsummit1776.com and get your copy of the replay. It is only $29.17 for both days. You'll be able to hear many of our speakers, our panels that we had, and of course, you're going to be able to hear Tom's whole story with his amazing PowerPoint presentation. So I encourage you to do that right now and watch the full monumental event. And, just for fun, we're going to put again in the description box the Quantum Summit 2 short documentary that was done by me, give you a little bit of a taste for what goes into planning these events and what we were dealing with the day before the event kicked off. I think it'll be fun. You'll see some pretty interesting speakers and panelists that were at this event, really having a great time at the gala, dancing to music. So we have all that caught on video. And lastly, don't forget to support us by supporting our sponsors. They're all listed in the description box. We're working with some wonderful companies with some wonderful products and services. And we really think that a lot of these products and services could serve you very well. So anyway, please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy our show.
But before we get started, folks, make sure you hit the pause button. Okay, go down below. There's a Rumble link. Go over to Rumble and follow us over there. QFS1776.com is, without question, the holy grail of what's to come. Okay, T-shirts. You got to get yourself decorated. This way people will ask you, what is XRP? What is the quantum financial system? What is this? What is that? And you send them where? To QFS1776.com, where they need to immerse themselves, because we're going to burn down this system down to the ground. And out of the ashes will rise the phoenix. There'll be nothing to go back to. Believe me when I tell you that. Also, our Telegram groups down below. If you want to learn what's coming and you're sort of a little scared, I understand. Believe me, I was there too at one point. And if you need more than $10,000 worth of XRP or $1 million worth of XRP, you come see me. Send me an email at QFS1776@gmail, and we'll get you as much as you want. Gold and silver. Welcome to Carmine'sGold.com. Don't waste not even a second looking. Cheaper prices just don't exist. How important is it for you to own gold and silver right now? What does it mean to me personally? There's an economy that's about to crash beyond what words can explain. In 5 words, I'm going to educate you on gold and silver. Are you ready? You need to own some. Simple.
Hi, Elisa V here. Did you know that medical bills are the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States, accounting for 66.5% of bankruptcies? In fact, in 2022, 17% of adults with healthcare debt either declared bankruptcy or lost their homes due to it. We can all agree that the healthcare system is broken. Well, there is an alternative that I want to tell you about. It is Impact Health Sharing, which Yahoo News is calling the disruptor in the $4.6 trillion healthcare system. With Impact Health Sharing, you can choose the doctors, clinics, and naturopaths that you want with less restrictive guidelines. Medical bills are reduced to their fair market value, and premiums are 30 to 72% cheaper than competitors. Plus, Impact Health incentivizes healthy habits like supplements, gym visits, and therapy. Call 844-275-1056 and use the code MELCARMINE for a free quote today. And without further ado, we're going to get into it. So I'm thrilled again, as I said, to welcome you back, Tom. How are you today?
I'm fired up. Really, I am. If you listen to that summit thing, I was very passionate on stage because it was just like I was going to be myself. and just let it loose. And I'm excited to discuss these things and apply that passion today for what we are doing.
I have to tell you, your story and how you went through it and described it was so riveting. I mean, you literally brought tears to so many people in the audience, myself included, with your account of what you went through and all the personal stuff. And I just, for anybody who's watching now, we're going to get into sort of the, I guess you'd say, a little bit of the meat and potatoes and a little bit of the analysis of how the studio and all parties involved actually stole Tom's script. And, we're going to discuss that. However, we are going to have a part 3 to this because, we want to also talk about like how far these people will go and get into a lot of that and a lot of what Tom has endured through the years and the horrible, horrendous tragedies that he's experienced. But today, the question really is, Tom, like, how do you steal a shooting script? A lot of people don't understand what goes into when you are a screenwriter and how that whole process works. And, I hope you can kind of just share with everybody how this steal actually happened, right? We saw last week, if anybody, I encourage you to watch part 1 because we're going to be making some references. But in part 1, you were able to show us like the documentation that showed that you were the original owner of this script. We talked about briefly how the process of you getting into writing this and the inspiration and the experiences that you had in life. But today I want to really get into how did they steal this? What happened? And explain, and then we're going to show some comparisons as to what your original script was all about and how they kind of took it over and made these subtle, not so subtle changes in the script to kind of take over what you created.
Yeah, it's
So
a great
I'm
question.
turn it over to you.
Yeah, well, one of the things, first of all, right out of the bat, is many people claim, well, they took my idea. Well, when they take your actual script, and what they do is one of the first things you'll do is you'll change the names. But these guys that did it were failed writers, and they're working with an organization that was just like totally about cashing in on it.
Okay, let me stop you. When you say these guys, who are you talking about?
Warner Brothers, Disney, Paramount, Universal, Sony, the whole den of thieves was involved in this one. They all wanted to have a take on the work, and so did the defendants that were involved in this. So what you have is they're taking a script, which is a shooting script, as you said, and in it you'll see, I mean, we can flash up examples of this, but it's like actual descriptions of the shots and interiors and things like this. This is a shooting script.
Yes.
How do you steal a shooting script? It's like it's fully ready to go. It's ready to put in the hands of the film photographers and the different staff and shoot this baby. So what do? One of the first things, the cheapest, easiest way to do is change the name of the characters. Then people they can say, oh, well, it's a different name. Well, they actually made that into joke situations anywhere where there's 3 love interests in the Immortals. So they call the character Trinity. The woman is now one character called Trinity. So they do this where they change the names of Brittany to Sati. And it's just like, you're just moving the letters around. So if they want to be clever that way, that's kind of a silly take on it where it still leaves a trail of steak crumbs.
Okay.
All right.
So step 1, so step 1, when they take the script, they're going to go in and they're going to take like some of the, how can I say, the smaller or the more obvious things. They're going to make those changes, name changes, etc.
Right.
And that's what they did. And
Exactly.
What did you just say? You just said something to the effect about these funny things. What does that mean? Are they kind of mocking you with the way?
Yes, inside jokes. And
Okay.
Suzanne, the graphic designer, with the articles on her, where she says these are inside jokes to keep the project interesting for the directors. So when they're stealing work, it's not their baby. It's like Solomon's baby. It's not their baby. So they're kind of like mocking it on set. They're mocking the author. When you name the main character the author's name and double name them and put your birthday and his fiance's birthday as the character's birthday, you've got something where you're just sticking these jokes way too much, and then you're trying to sneak them by the clearance department, which is to prevent this from happening because that's a copyright infringement. So what they're doing is inside jokes all over the place. Biblical license plates, using the author's name, the author's birthday, the fiance of the author as Neo's birthday. These things are just stuck in there. High school. That's what's so amazing is they went that far. And so naming was a big part of the first step. They had to convince the suits at Warner Brothers that they had a way to launder this work that would be effective. And what they came up with was, okay, you got a shooting script. How do we do it? They said, let's make a visual storyboard of all the images you think are cool, and we'll put it into that visual storyboard. And then, lo and behold, we'll get on set. We'll have this in one hand. We'll have the visual storyboard in the other, and we'll make it up as we go along. That is the dumbest idea in the world.
So they actually, from what you can gather and know and understand, they were using your script, and then they had this other storyboard where they made certain changes, and then the rest they were would you say almost like they were doing it impromptu as they went?
That's how they did it. It didn't work. You can't do that with union people on set waiting for their next directions. So people started making suggestions. They got mad and made a 20-foot rule that you can't come within 20 feet of this work. No other film has a 20-foot rule that no one's allowed within a perimeter of 20 feet because you'll be able to read this title. So they don't want anybody seeing it.
20 feet within seeing the script.
Yeah, let's go 20 feet right here. So you can see the script right now. Now let's have the 20-foot rule.
Can't see.
That's right. So that's what they're doing. They made a 20-foot rule. It's insane. And they code-named it the Science Project, among other names. So they're broadcasting the theft right there. Everybody on set knew it was being stolen. And that's what the stuntman, the Batman stuntman, Quentin, asked throughout Warner Brothers, do you know about Tom Aldhouse and the morals? And he says, yes, it's common knowledge. We're not allowed to talk about it. Or the receiving agent, which was the head of the story department at the time. So what you have is Diane Bella. So no one's supposed to talk about it. Everybody knows it's happening. So you got a different dynamic right there where everybody knows about the theft, right? So that's why people will call me from the inside and say, hey, it's an honor to meet you. The people that were involved in stealing it different people on set will say, it's an honor to meet you. We saw your work on set. The fight choreographer Matrix talked to me or contacted me and said, yeah, we saw your script on set and the storyboard on the other hand. And they tried to make up as they go along. And think of this. Think of like Jurassic Park when you're trying to, fill in the missing DNA data. You use the frogs and things like that. So what they're doing is on set, they thought they could fill in the elements that make it tie together by drawing from what they're familiar with. That's why the train station scene has the man from Ghost in it, where, the ghost. Yeah. So they have a train station. Yeah.
I want to talk about that scene. So just to kind of be clear, so they took it. Now you found out, let's just kind of, you knew that they were out to sort of destroy you, and because you weren't going along with a lot of these nefarious things they were doing and the way they wanted to kind of keep you in a victimized position. So then there was all out war, basically, right after that from them. So your script is now with the studio, and do you find out from people that are on set, like, hey, Tom, we're making this movie and they're changing it? Like, how did you get privy factually that this is what was going on?
Good question. At first, I had no idea because these people were paid off very, very well. I'm talking about the set people. Wachowski's called them their posse, right? So it's like this. They try to make this personal connection with everybody and make them all involved in the set. Everybody has dirty hands. So if you talk, you're going to lose money. You'll hurt your family. Finances will disappear. You'll be we'll all get in trouble, go down together. Do you really want that kind of feeling? So there was things, even golden envelopes were given at dinners where they had, quote, more money than they could imagine offered at these dinners, cover-up dinners. Wow. Keanu Reeves does that thing where he gives millions, or channeled through Keanu Reeves, to every member of the set crew are given like $1 million overnight. And they had this article you can see where they said they all became instant millionaires. That was cover-up money. That was hush money. And then the stuntmen were all given Harleys. So then they called it the greatest act of charity. They did two things right there in this side note here. They made Keanu Reeves look like the really benevolent guy doing acts of charity. That's not acts of charity, though, if you're giving payoff money to union wage people. You're not giving it to the homeless people in LA that are washing those windshields on your car. They're giving it to the people that are union wage set. That's like me going to Rockefeller Center and going to the execs there and saying, I'm giving you $1 million each to shut up, but it's an act of charity. How wonderful am I? So it's just insane. They spin this way. But back to the set, yes, what they're doing is they have everybody in agreement not to say anything. So I had no idea what was going on until they wanted me to know.
What did you think was going on? Like, you brought your script there, and then you're kind of doing your own thing and minding your own business. What did you think was going on before anybody contacted you? You just thought they were considering it, they were burying it,
I thought they were considering it. They have a nice little dance they do, and I'm talking about Disney and Warner Brothers both, where they'll make you feel like it's going to happen. We're going to get to it. And then you start to find people from the inside that you're connected with, like the former story department head is Diane Bellis. That's who that letter you have right there from Boyd and Boyd of Norfolk, to the submitting attorney, is addressing it to her, care of Bonaventura Friends, the executive who I pitched to, Elizabeth. So you've got this person's removed right away, but they don't tell me she's removed. So this goes to that answer where they removed Diane Bellis from position immediately after she receives my work. But they don't tell me that. And they pretend she's still in position. And they erase her on LinkedIn and everything as if she doesn't exist as a story department head. Just gone, poof. Just golden parachute, disappear.
And but she was your point person, if you will, initially, like before that. So, and you, I want to insert, so just for everybody watching, where, you know, we're going to edit this video, which you will see you're seeing now, the final version of it, but we're going to be inserting some important imagery and documentation that, you know, because we're not really doing a PowerPoint here, but we're going to just put some key things in. And that, I guess that letter would probably be an important thing to put in here so they could see.
Absolutely important. So let's just say the letter's here right now. So the letter right here would show Elizabeth, who's the friend of Bonaventura, care of Elizabeth, to Diane Bellis, head of the story department, June 25th, 1993. So that's direct access, which according to the courts is done deal, it's stolen. Direct access by the studios, particular, it means it's stolen. You took it, you wanted it, you solicited it. So that submission through Bonaventura's directions to his best friend Elizabeth, what they did was they removed Diane Bellis and put Teresa Wayne in place. She's still there, apparently. So she's the head of the cover-up at the story department. And she makes some blunders also while she does this. But I had no idea. So I call like 3 years after I submitted, and I'm told, you know, we're making this, all this stuff, she received it. When I call 3 years later, because I'm wondering, like you're saying, like you're alluding to, what's going on? No, are we looking forward to moving along on this? I'm told we're going to make it. So I call as a courtesy call, basically, and to find out how deep this is, where we're going. And there's a long pause when I reach the studios. They're like, okay, hold on. Long pause. I'm talking about 10 to 15 minutes.
So you're just on hold? You're just on hold.
On hold. And then Diane Bellis gets on the phone. What they're doing is they're pretending she's still in position. So she goes like this. I remember you. Listen, next time, send it through a agent so we're both protected. What? What just happened? Because sending through an attorney is better than sending through an agent. Sending through an attorney where the attorney's been given directions to send it to Warner Brothers is more powerful than sending through an agent. That's like one card up. That's like going to an ace card. So why are you saying send it through an agent? What she was doing was giving me a word that she is not in a position to, it's like tapping on the walls in the Hanoi Hilton, you know, like in Vietnam. So what she's doing is she's going like, you know, okay, listen, next time send it through an agency, we're both protected. She's trying to still make it look like, okay, she's not sending anything off. She's sticking to the script, but here's a warning, take it or leave it.
Now, did you get that message that she was saying when she said that?
When she said it, I knew something wasn't quite right. I didn't know quite what she meant. At first, your mind goes to, okay, I need to find an agent. Then you're like, wait a minute. Why do I need to find an agent when an attorney has all the proof?
Right.
Everything, right? Why? And I could never get a hold of her again. She just wasn't available after that. So that's 3 years after she's been removed from position. She's not on LinkedIn anywhere. You can't find Diane Bellis as being a head of the story department. That's a top position that you would want to put on your resume.
Of course.
And she's gone. And so Teresa Wayne has taken over like a month or two after she received my materials. And that was when she also had called and she said, yes, we got it. The first time when she received it, I followed up with Bonaventura's directions. I called in and asked Diane Bellis if she had received the packet and was to her satisfaction, right? Which is what you do. And she had said at that time, yes, I've received it. And the submitting attorney, James Boyd, that you see on the letterhead there, he had said, like, yes, they got it. Here's the tracking number receipt. They received it, everything.
This was Miss Wayne that said she received it, or this was Diane Bellis?
This was Diane Bellis. Diane Bellis, right? Teresa Wayne's not going to play ball at all. She's going to not be available ever, and she's going to testify against you. So what she's in there for is the cover-up. She's the baddie, right? That's going to launder, steal it, make sure the steal and the money stays in their pockets. So what happens with Diane, though, maybe this is part of the reason that it didn't occur before to me, that maybe she was removed because of this initial phone call. She says, yes, we received it. Probably wasn't supposed to say that. And yes, it's, it's very good, whatever. She said, but I don't think anybody's going to be interested in the architect. I mean, sorry, the Hitler being this architect in the story. I don't think you should have it as Hitler. And so that's no big deal. That's just a name change. There's nothing to that. We're still in business. Everything's good. You can change the name, and they did, didn't they? But let's go back to name changes for a second. What they changed it to? What they changed it to? The architect. They didn't even give it a name. They just changed it to the architect. What they named the lead agent? Smith. That's the most generic name. What they named the three love interests that are the women combined into one? Trinity. What they named the main character? Thomas A. So what you've got is, and Neo together, two names to mock the author. What you've got is idiots stealing the work that failed at everything they did and trying to be clever. They had an idea, we'll rename things, fine, but you did such a bad job renaming it, and even a worse job lifting the imagery. So Teresa Wayne's there to protect it, stop it from happening. She worked with Joel Silver, the one that claims to be the producer, that is the, owns the franchise along with the Wachowskis. She has a sworn statement that Joel Silver submitted the story, didn't call it Matrix, story, in 1994. All right. So I submit 1993. She claims he submits it, and he claims that he bought it from Bonaventura, who I pitched it to, with his own spec money. That's just a verbal deal, basically. Right. And then he submits it in 94. So you can see the timeline fitting. But the Wachowskis aren't in the picture till 95. So they're getting, can't stay with me on this one. They get candidates to steal it, including Tom Hanks, Wendy Wasserstein, famous figures, and then these lower echelon D players who failed at everything, the Wachowskis. And here's how it works.
Just backtrack a second. I just want to make sure everybody's clear. So you submit it in 93. They have some kind of letter or whatever that says that Joel Silver confirms that he submitted it, that he bought it on spec from
Bonaventura, the guy I pitched it to, right?
Right. And then now, right. And now what I got a little confused about is when you said all these other names, like you said.
Let me lay it out then. Let's just check, make it a chessboard.
Yeah.
So you got, who do I pitch to? Bonaventura, through his best friend, Lenny Coco. Lenny Coco is the one that confirms that, yes, you were at my house. Yes, you pitched it. Bonaventura loved it. He said it was revolutionary, and he had you submit it. And I gave you the directions on how to submit it. Or he gave you the directions on how to submit it. So those are your two players right there. The first line, those are your pawns. Now what happens is Bonaventura, Joel Silver wants it. He's in-house at Warner Brothers. He wants it really bad. Okay. And so Bonaventura does this agreement. There actually is a picture I gave you where they're hugging each other. And Teresa Wayne says they never met. Teresa Wayne's testimony says they never met. That's the job of a cover-up artist, right? The one that's in charge of the story department says they never met. Well, we got the picture of them hugging each other in 93. Right, okay, great. So the deal is, listen, I'll let you launder it, Joel Silver. Bonaventura receives it. It's revolutionary. He understands the full piece because it was pitched and every question answered. Now he gives it to Joel Silver. We'll keep it in-house. You claim it, and I'll still profit off it from a distance. You claim it. You'll be the front man. And so now we got to find candidates to give it to in-house, bring people in-house to be candidates to steal it. Each of these people, like Bonaventura, Joel Silver, the rest involved, like Dino Rentis, are finding candidates to bring before the suits at Warner Brothers to say, here's the ones that we'll bring in-house to claim they're the ones that are the writers. See, what they're doing is bringing it in-house to claim it in-house. That's what they're doing. So that becomes the next process. In the meantime, Teresa Wayne is testifying that in 94, Joel Silver, after he bought it with his spec money, supposedly from Bonaventura, who I pitched it to, is entering it in the story department, right?
At Warner Brothers.
At Warner Brothers. Now, here's the important part, 1994. So you got 1993 submission, 94, Joel Silver claims it from Bonaventura and enters it in the story department. They're all still in the same den of thieves. Right. But what's interesting is the Wachowskis, who then end up being the final candidates selected because they whine so much, like bad attorneys in LA. They whined so much, and Joel Silver wanted to appease them because they failed so badly at Assassins. Another writer had been brought in 95 to finish the work. Now, stay with me on this. Okay. They failed. And they did an article saying they failed. So Joel Silver pushes because they wanted out of Warner Bros. They might squeal and say there's theft going on. So Joel Silver gives them the science project after an audition piece to see if they can direct called Bound. So Assassins, they fail at. Another writer had been brought in. That's 95. In 96 or 95, they do Bound as an audition piece by Joel Silver to see if they can at least direct. In their own article, when the Wachowskis in 95 said, we failed as writers in Hollywood on Assassins. We'll have to pack our bags and leave unless we're given a project to direct. Look what's going on here. Then they got so mad about that, they were going to leave. They wanted out of Warner Brothers. Writers Guild said, you can't leave. So Joel Silver gives them the golden egg. Joel Silver says, I'll give you the science project if you shut up. I'll give you the science project, and I'll have the suits at Warner Bros. Skip Tom Hanks, skip the other candidates, Wendy Wasserstein, all these top people. We'll skip them, and we'll give it to you. Now they're appeased. Now
okay, so just to be clear, very, very, very quick. Who are the Wachowski brothers? Why do they have to be appeased? And you know, how do they kind of fit? Like, how did they come into the picture? Are they just
this is really
bought
amazing.
And sold? Okay. You know, bought and
you're talking very layered. When there's billions of dollars at stake, you're talking about a very layered plan where they call it the art of war. Who was it? First of all, the Wachowskis. They're the ones that the claim is that they are the geniuses behind the work. And boy, does that irk me. You know, when it was written for A World as a Gift, and they totally messed it up and screwed it up, which we'll look at how they did that in a bit here. But the Wachowskis failed at everything. They were groupies, sci-fi groupies from Chicago. And their mom, they said, even said that all they did was play video games. They're sci-fi groupies. They're not even creative. Okay. They never created a piece of art really at all. All they did was keep lifting and taking. And they claim that Mel Gibson, see how they're putting players in place for every component?
Yeah.
Every facet on the chessboard? Disney calls it a chessboard. So Mel Gibson's brought in to be the so-called plausible story of how the Wachowskis are brought from Chicago, has failed at painting, dropped out of college, failed at everything they did as deep players. That's supposed to make us believe that, okay, Mel Gibson's the one that discovered them for what? And Mel Gibson's the one that brought them Gina Laurentiis, who's the top dog basically at Warner Brothers, who claims that he wined and dined the Wachowskis after Mel Gibson brought them to him and said, you're going to have beautiful women, fame and fortune. Now here's the question right at this facet, at this timeline. Okay, the Wachowskis are famous for nothing. They dropped out of school. They failed at their painting contract. Their mom says all they do is play video games. They're a nobody, know-nothing hacks. Why is Mel Gibson, and how does Mel Gibson discover them? Mel Gibson's part of the problem. He is now allowing himself to be used for this theft. That's what's so wild about Mel Gibson. And he's promised the Christian market if he does. So he has the blessing of Hollywood to do Christian films and be known for that because they categorize everything. They want to profit off everything. So Mel Gibson is the profiteer off of the Christian content. Isn't that something?
So
there's a lot of layers to this.
Okay, so and was Mel Gibson under contract with Warner Brothers that like how did he come into the picture?
He comes into a contract, and here you got great question. Stay with us. We almost need that graphic with a string.
Yeah, I know. We need a map.
That is what my legal team is doing right now. There's like, this is so intense, so amazing. So far they went because so many billions of dollars were involved that you can trace it 1 degree of separation on everything. On
everything, yeah.
So wild. We've got them. Now they're lamenting that, oh, he was smart enough to write The Matrix. So therefore, this author, Tom Oldhouse, has a great team that's smart like him. That's who he'd work with. So you're going to blow us out of the water. It was a stupid move to take it. They should have just worked with him. There you go. Well, what happens with Mel Gibson, he is given Forever Young. Get this.
Okay, I remember that movie.
Yeah, so 93. Get this. I submit in 93 after a full pitch session with Bonaventura. Mel Gibson's given a reward if he plays a part, if he plays the patsy. Okay, if you got to Mel Gibson to get this deal on this film as a lead, you've got to, and he's like, gimme. Gimme. He's like, you've got to be the plausible storyline for how the Wachowskis come to Warner Brothers. And you can almost hear him going like, what? What do you mean? Hey, I mean, these guys are nobodies. You're going to use me. How do I even discover them? Don't even worry about that. Don't even worry about that.
So he might not, we don't know, but maybe he didn't really know the full story behind everything. He just got involved because he had his eyes on a different project and he was just like, whatever I got to do, let me move on.
Maybe in the beginning, but he knew completely.
Okay.
Because, he knew completely. So what happened was, we know that because of his blow up with the Zionist thing when he was drunk. When he was drunk, he blew up and started cursing out the Zionists as the problem in Hollywood for the world to be aware of. And then after he's sober, he's made to apologize on camera and change his statement. That is the cabal at work. That is the cabal working with a candidate that will comply. If Mel Gibson had not done that apology, yeah, I would have said, yeah, sure, he's a good guy. No, he will sell his mother and his grandmother if he can get more of the work.
Well, I just want to add something here, just my own, I think, and I'm not making excuses for anyone, but, we know how they work. We know that there's blackmail. We know that so are bad guys always bad guys when they're put in that position, or are they just trying to protect themselves? And I'm not talking about the ones at the top who are making the decisions and pulling the strings. I'm talking about what would you do if you were in that situation?
Let me put it to you then.
There's a threat.
Open this up. Let's go this way because this is perfect. Let's do this. You're Mel. All right, you're Mel. Melina. You're Melina.
Melina.
Right, Melina Gibson. Okay, here we go. Ready? Here's the situation, Melina. So the author has been taken from. Joel Silver's made that clear. When you're on the inside, they tell you all the information. That's the dirt of your hands, so you stay on the inside. Oh. Okay, that can be for an argument that, okay, what are you going to do in that case? But let's make it a little more clear. So Quentin, the Batman stuntman, said everybody knew it was a theft. So Mel Gibson's walking around studios where everybody knows it's been stolen. He knows he's part of that. And he did that thing where he blew up and talked about the Zionist thing, called back into the apology. Now, here's the deal. If he knows that the author was taken from and the author's sons have been murdered, and he's not being given credit for the work, and he's profiting off that work and doing the Christian market, which is actually, he's supposed to do it for the cabal's way, cleansing it down and making this kind of thing go on. So if he knows all this horror has happened and continues to profit off that, is that you, Melina? Is that me? Would we do that? Or we try to get a message to you and say, I understand what's going on. Just, I'll try to do what I can. Would you just sit back and collect everything and let those sons be murdered and let that person be taken advantage of just for your own gain and do whatever they said and go along with it?
Well, I don't think that's in our hearts to do, but let's remember sometimes that people are threatened in such a way, and if they see what was done to you, they're going to do things out of fear and self-protection. So I don't know on a spiritual level if we could really say they're evil or they're just
evil,
afraid. Okay. And like
they're doing the wrong thing.
They're doing right. No, we're not going to say it was the right thing by any means, but that's a whole show and a whole discussion that we can have for the next 10
we can
years.
Leave that, but that's
now you've painted the picture though of like how the layers are starting to form in this process of stealing.
And how it corrupts people. I mean, it's very important to know that people they pride themselves, Warner Brothers Studios, Disney, the rest of them say that everybody has their price. Now, Mel Gibson's price was that he got to be the lead in Forever Young. And in the Immortals, if you look at the opening scenes in the Immortals, you have the whole thing with the character running through the rainforest, and he's a person who is not aged, came back out of cryogenics, not aged, looking for his wife, Helena. And you got Mel Gibson playing the character who is not aged, looking for his wife, Helen. And so what they did was so blatantly do it. He was part of the consulting process. I'm not going to go with Mel right now. I'm just going to say, bad choice, Mel. For me, as the author to him, you shouldn't have done it. My sons are dead. Bad on you for not doing the right thing, no matter what you think you were through. You've gained. You haven't been hurt. So that's the thing. So what happens is Mel Gibson is the plausible story for, okay, Wachowski's going to gets well rewarded for that. And goes on even to do Braveheart and things like that, where the picture falls from the hand. He thinks he's seeing his wife. That's in the Immortals. So he's lifting things from the Immortals, even on his other films later. It's insane. So not so good. We were supposed to believe he's good because he's groomed that way. If I didn't know the truth, I'd be like, what a nice guy. He always plays the good guy. That's what I was supposed to do if I'd said yes. All right, so what they do is they bring you in. They have try to make a plausible story of how you get it. Now, here's where they really screw up. The Wachowskis don't really arrive on the scene until 95. So if Joel Silver, under sworn testimony by Teresa Wayne in the Sophia Stewart case, who's the one that claimed to be the mother of the Matrix, not. Anyway, so what happens is in the testimony against her, Teresa Wayne says in 1994, Joel Silver submitted to the story department in 1994 the story. Now, the problem is here. That's sworn testimony. In 95, Joel Silver says that in 95, during the appeasement for assassins, when the Wachowskis said they failed as writers, they seem to just leave things behind and just make a new storyline up. Because they say that, oh, that's when the Wachowskis showed me the Matrix story was in 1995.
1995. After he said that in 1994, it was brought to him.
Sworn testimony in 94 says they submitted the story.
Interesting.
See, it doesn't work. It doesn't wash. But they don't care about that because they don't think anybody will be living that matters, that the scene will be cleansed and the people will be dead that are in the way or silenced or bought off. So that's why they continue on this absurd line where you're going to see a lot of incongruities they don't connect, like the story itself, where they actually claim the story itself was never meant to be, Wachowskis and Joel Silver claim it was never meant to be one seamless piece. It was always meant to be different kind of things. It's like, well, the attorneys from Warner Bros. Said it was always one seamless piece. That's going to be their argument, while the Wachowskis know it doesn't tie together. In fact, Joel Silver said on set, on this, when the third and second was being shot in Animatrix 2, he said, we hope when we watch the rushes that it'll tie together. We hope we used up the rest of the story. You hope you used up the rest of the story. We hope we used up the rest of the story. We hope we used it up. And what we didn't use up on set is we made up a win long. We put into Animatrix and shorts where the cool ideas that are on the storyboard that we think are really cool are then put into shorts where we use our famous Japanese directors that because we're sci-fi groupies, we get to work with. And how rewarding is that? Making up the last bits that we thought were cool that we can take credit for. It's all about taking credit for those cool concepts that are iconic now. Isn't that something? There you go. If that made sense, that's how you steal the work.
Okay, so, by the way, like we could be here for so long because this is so fascinating and we keep going down these different roads and paths. And I find it absolutely just mind-boggling, the way this veins out. You do need to do some kind of map. Now, you're a great listener, you're a great host, and you're allowing this to happen. This flows with everybody's different, and you're making it all come forward. So you're doing a good job. Well, thank you. So, there's your baby. I see her. So hey, she's gorgeous. So what I want to see if we could do, right?
Yeah.
Let's pull out a couple of scenes, and of course, we're hoping that the audience has seen The Matrix, right? So they're going to be able to remember and make those connections. If you haven't, this might be an interesting exercise to now get the inside look at what went on, and now you'll be able to point to that when you watch it. But tell me about let's take a look, if we can, like unravel a few of the scenes. Like we had talked about the interrogation scene, the train station scene. Can you maybe go through that a little methodically, what it looked like, and then how they hijacked it, so to speak?
Right. Well, the graphic you have there too is the one of the young driver, like the African-American man with headphones on.
Okay.
He's sitting in front of a green scrolling blip screen, right, with the green scrolling blips, which Warner Brothers claims they're claiming the green scrolling blips as their idea, after we submit. And it has him listening to loud rock music, right, and reading this green scrolling blips. So what I want to show you also was 110, page 110 of The Immortals, which Warner Bros. Claims the Immortals title. This is the description. As you look at that picture with the African-American man with the headphones on in front of the green scrolling blip, and there's Morpheus with a jack, clearly to jack the whole back of the neck. And it says in the description of page 110 at the top, interior, tunneler, underground, shooting script. It says a young driver is having a blast operating the tunneler and playing loud music. He watches the screen showing the scrolling map in green with blips on it. What you have right there is a layered, iconic image with layers to it. You've got the jacks to the neck in there. You've got the green scrolling blips. You've got the young driver. They lifted exactly off the page. Now, with all those elements exactly off the page, that's not just one idea like I'm going to have a girl in a blue dotted raincoat with a red umbrella, holding a dog, and I'm going to have this lady in a blue raincoat with dots, so therefore you stole my work. No, this is the blue raincoat with the red umbrella with a dog and walking along. This is all the elements together, not even attempting to change it.
Yeah.
With saying that that's what they claimed most, they loved most, was the green scrolling blip. Now, what's interesting about that is that draws to attention why this scene wasn't even altered. Maybe the Wachowskis were getting tired and they said, let's just do the scene as it is. They were tired of people making suggestions. They did that in an interview talking about how they were so frustrated, people always making suggestions, because they were delaying. They were not doing well. So anyway, that's a very important piece right there to win a case hands down. That would win in a courtroom if there was due process and you're allowed to come before a jury.
Because it's total, it's stealing from your work.
Yeah.
So give me another example. I think you said the girl in the train station. Was that?
Absolutely. My goodness. So you look at the train station scene. First of all, again, how do you lift the work? Let's tie your other question into this answer. How do you lift the work? What they said to the Warner Brothers was, we will, and Joel Silver said, we'll cheapen the budget. We'll make it less expensive. When I wrote it, I knew it'd be expensive, but I didn't know green screens existed at the time. But what they did was instead of a crowded train station scene with all these haggard people, which is supposed to be very very monumental and echoing about child trafficking.
And that's what you wrote. That's what you wrote.
So the original piece, right? The original piece is all these people outside the train station scene, and there's actually 2 train station scenes. They combine it into one, which is dumb. It doesn't serve the story. But they say on their fan page, the train station scene was just a subplot. Little girl was just a subplot. But when you look at the way the train station scene was supposed to be, you've got a crowd coming forward. They actually did it in I Am Legend with Will Smith later. They did it exactly as I described it, with the exact same way. Look at that clip. I think I sent it, but it's like the clip of her, the lady going, "Take my baby, take my daughter," overdoing it a bit. I wouldn't have directed it that way, but that's what the scene is. In a crowd where it's almost hopeless that your child's going to be taken. So it's almost like you're screaming at an auction, like, "Please take my child," among all these other people desperate to get their child into a program that they can't follow and never see again, in the hope that they'll have a better life where they're going to be trafficked. Now, that's passion. That's putting your audience into a situation where what will you do as a parent? It's intense. The author's intense. That's what I intended. What did they do with it? What did they do with it? They made a static scene of a well-dressed couple. What? Indian couple, because they thought it'd be cool, with a little girl just standing there in front of Neo, who's just lounging on the floor, basically. And they're going like, "Yeah, we love our daughter. We're going to put her in the program." What the hell? You're going to take your daughter, when you're wealthy, obviously, from what we see, and put her when there's no rush, no stakes, no urgency. It's all gone. They stripped it. Yeah. No wonder they were failed writers, right? And they stripped something else out. The liquid mirrors they lift out of that scene. Remember, they're lifting everything out they thought was cool in the visual storyboard? So they decided to not put the liquid mirrors at the train station anymore in the original work. They lifted out and put it with Morpheus. And they have Neo with Morpheus going like this with the liquid mirror going, "Wow. Basically, that's cool. I can put my hand through the mirror." Again, a really bad choice. Put it back in the train station scene where, if you take the red pill, you can pass through those liquid mirrors. If you do not take the red pill and you try to rush through, as is in the scene, one of the short lifers, one of the people that's not part of the program, tries to rush through. A man rushes through. He gets stuck. It says like a bug-like resin, and gets cut and clean in half by the mirror reforming. So that's why the train station scene, by taking the mirrors out, the security devices, what do the Wachowskis do to cover that now? It's like causing a problem to create another problem.
Right.
Like that, the cascade effect, domino effect. So what happens? They've got to make it, well, how is Neo stuck at the train station if you took the liquid mirrors out, which was cool? Oh, well, they think it's cool, so we'll put it here with Morpheus and just get his hand through. So what they do is, okay, we'll lift it out and we'll have him just run down the railroad tracks, and he runs back in the scene frame. My God, that is so dumb, because if we put a camera on Neo, at some point we're going to see a change where you're running back to the light of a tunnel, back to the thing. It doesn't work. It's not an Escher print. So the brains just aren't there. No wonder they failed at everything they did. So it's like lifting that out. They butchered that scene so badly. The little girl they call is just a subplot. The little girl reminds Neo of the daughter he lost. They took the love relationship out. He had just lost his daughter in an earlier scene whose name was Brittany. So at the train station, a woman is coming up, and this guard even talks about the black market where they have information passed to try to get the people in the program to take your kid with them. She's like, "This is your daughter. It's Brittany. It's Brittany. Looks like her. Has a little doll and everything." And so it's like he looks at her because he just had lost his daughter. And it's like he wants to take this little girl. Then he looks back again and they're not there because the crowd just envelopes them all.
Right.
And
because of the crowd's not an isolated.
There's a lot. Yeah. So see the layers of feeling even too? You got the grieving father whose daughter, and there's a girl that looks like it, maybe can save her. Then you got the crowd desperate to have their kids taken. They don't know if they're going to get their kids trafficked. You've got this whole thing where liquid mirrors are very dangerous. You've got the sense of urgency. You've got the guards all around you and flying pods that are observing you at all times that could take you out. You've got a situation with passion on passion on passion. And what do the Wachowskis do? They take it and they strip it to frickin' nothing. They ruin it. And people call them geniuses. They ruined it. They took the liquid mirrors out. They took the little girl out. They said she's just a subplot. They ruined the relationships. And that's why they were removed as writers on Assassins, because they took out the central sympathetic character. This is a quote. They took out the love interest, and they added all this violence. They destroyed. There's not the worst people you can pick to destroy my piece. But that's another example. The train station scene, ruined. And there's a second train station scene where they just decided to put it together to save on budget. The second train station scene is where Trinity is sent by the Oracle to help Neo when he's cut from the program and he has to get through the liquid mirrors. She distracts the guard with a kiss and pulls him through, and part of Neo's clothing is actually cut off. And they put that, Warner Brothers and Sony put that in an anime, Darling in the Franxx. They put that very scene where he goes through the mirrors, pulled by the woman through, and part of his clothing's cut off. These fuckers, I'm sorry, they have lifted this work so many bad ways, and then they steal it in other works. So that's why we're worth more than 2.1 billion, and that's why in the next episode you'll see how far they go.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll get more into that. And I think our viewers are going to also want to understand, like, you're talking about all this in a very just like what happened, you're just giving, but we haven't really talked about the emotion, like of what this did to you, and how you've had to deal with this. Now, just to get dates straight, so what year was The Matrix released?
1999.
1999. So it took from 1993 when you first submitted it, 1994 the theft began, 1995, they had another story about how they got the script, then they have the Wachowskis involved, and now the filming. Was it the filming that took so long? Was it that the writing, like what took so long?
There's a logical answer, and that's a great question you've asked. There's a timeline answer that makes sense. I wasn't destroyed yet. You destroy the author first, then you take the work. I wasn't destroyed yet. I was being courted by Disney and the Rockefellers. I was working at Colonial Williamsburg and giving top positions. I was going to be a director, which is above vice presidents. I was still a candidate for my own work, but I didn't know there was candidates involved. And so what happened was my fiance was the most beautiful, amazing woman in the world, and I was completely devoted to her.
And what year was this?
We're talking 95, 96.
95,
95.
96. Okay.
95, into 95. And so we're engaged to be married. We're like top dogs at this organization. We're doing all kinds of stuff, and we're being groomed by Rockefellers and Disney. And there's a picture I sent of us, like I'm in the tux and she's in this beautiful gown. And I was completely devoted to her, just like my own character in the screenplay. She was my muse for writing this thing. Her name was Atika Ball. And she was the niece of Senator David Boren, the top Democratic Party leader at the time. So we were very much in the good graces still, but Robertson's organization did not want, Pat Robertson, the evangelist, did not want me to succeed because I had been exposing his sex ring. So there was a cabal conundrum. There was a whole cacophony going on in the cabal, imploding, because I was groomed to lead in it. Robertson wanted me down because I'd been exposed to his sex ring. It wasn't my fault. It was his sex players, which I sent you materials on that.
Yeah.
And so that's when the letters throw me out. Everything's gone. Everything's gone. But the Rockefellers take me in. The Rockefellers give me, they see me as an asset that's really, really valuable. You're really talented. You could lead the, art. So anyway, so that's what's going on. So I'm not broken yet. In 95, they break me. In 95 is when the Wachowskis are given the work. In 95, in 96, 95 is when I end up in the hospital, shut away for life. And that's why the Bane scene, if you want to talk about scenes, that's why the Bane scene is so important. Do you want to talk about the Bane scene? Why they put that in there? To mock the author when he lost everything? You want to know about passion?
So that part of it was added. That was not part of what was in there. And so their sadism, or whatever you want to call it.
They're masochists.
Yeah, and so that's where they added that scene, because simultaneously that's what was being done, where you were being destroyed. And so from 95 and 96 were they already in the process of, let's say, I'm going to use this word very loosely, but developing the changes on the script, do you believe? Or do you think that came after they did what they did to you?
That's a great question. That's when the discussions start. Well, they appear before the suits of Warner Brothers in 95, at the end of 95. When I'm hospitalized and I've lost Otika and I'm a broken man, I'm destroyed. I'm dead. I'm gone.
Now,
gone.
how did your fiance die, if you don't
She
mind
didn't
me?
die. She was talked away by the Disney components and the attorneys they provided us. They provided us these attorneys claiming they were going to get justice for us at Robertson's group, but they were supplied by Robertson. In fact, the attorney that was supplied to me, his name was Damian T. Horn. Damian T. Horn. There's a good joke on names. Well, he changed his name to Damian Thorn. Damian T. Horn is the character at the end of The Exorcist, who is the Antichrist. He changed his name to the Antichrist, Pat Robertson's attorney, pretending to be my attorney. And so he made sure that Otika was talked away, that she was set up, and I was broken. And then he started saying, you know, you're going to go to jail, all this other stuff, and just started coming at me with all these false things. They did the same thing in the Warner Brothers situation. Supplied their own attorney, pretended to be working for you, and pulled the rug. And so it's like, that's when they had me. And that's when Wachowskis get the work and the suits. There's an article about the suits going before the Wachowskis and Joel Silver. Wachowskis couldn't do anything with Joel Silver not there. They even called him their fearless leader in not a very friendly way. But they just didn't have the ability to function cognitively in a creative way. So Joel Silver's there to try to make sure all goes smooth for them. The suits ask the question, basically, well, they say this statement. They say, we know we have something cool, but we don't understand it. Can you explain it to us? The Wachowskis couldn't. Larry Wachowski got upset, leaves the room. And you hear him screaming on the phone because apparently what I'm told is that he was being told that we're going to give it to Tom. We're going to give this to Tom. You know, you guys aren't cutting it. You can't even explain it. And he's screaming, you can't do that. It's in the article. You can't do that. Joel Silver then says to the suits, he tries to save the day for the Wachowskis. God not bless him. He says, you know, you ought to understand, Bob. But no, Bob, one of the execs says Bob in the article. It talks about, he says, you know, what do you mean robots in the program? And Joel Silver says, it's robots in the program. You know, it's just like robots in a program. And the guy's like, I don't get that. Well, you know what? The executive was right. It's not robots in the program, Joel Silver. It's robot-like agents in the program because it's more, he's so stupid he didn't even figure it out. Robot-like agents means that the stakes are higher. If you're not allowed to show feeling from the room of monitors where each agent is monitored, not the architect watching reruns on black and white screens. It's the room of monitors belongs to Smith. That's his domain in the Cortex building. And in the original work, that's what it is. And if any agent shows too much feeling when they're monitored, they're terminated. You're not allowed to show too much feeling. So they have a phrase, no fear. And there's so many layers to this where even Neo's best friend is a former agent. He was allowed to be a former agent, setting you up for another layer later where he's supposed to face him down at the Cortex building. That's why Neo and Trinity, stay with me, gets in the building unopposed. But they do him getting in opposed, but they don't have the character there who's supposed to face him down, where his best friend's supposed to face him down for shock value. It's just they ruined everything. But I thought it was cool that a former friend, a best friend, was a former agent. The architect had it all planned, cause and effect. It's brilliant. It is brilliant. And they ruined it. They didn't understand it. There's so many layers that are so cool, Lisa. One thing too, the architect has a son that he names Wagner. Out of all these other sons and daughters that were conceived to be the closest match to him, Lucas used it in Star Wars and the clone thing. Right. Get off there. But he then eliminates all the brothers and sisters, and the son is supposed to, the one begotten son is supposed to be grateful that he's the only one remaining closest genetically to his father, the architect. And what happens is he uses Neo, just go with me on this one, Neo is used to assassinate or witness the assassination of the architect. Now get this scene being lifted. Wagner shoots his father in the arm, shoots his father in the leg, then goes up, and his father still loves him. The architect loves one person, his son, his only begotten son. He hugs him, and then Wagner hugs him back and then blows his brains out. So Lucas uses that in Solo, Han Solo. They use it again. They rehash it because they're so stupid in Hollywood. They just keep rehashing the scene of, we're going to hug you. Oh, he's going to kill you. Yeah, we know we're going to kill you. It was done in Immortals. It's done over and over and over and over and over again. So what happens is Neo is framed, but here's what happens. Wagner takes the neural link from his father, cuts it out, holds it up and says, now we are one. The son didn't like being second. The son wanted to be first. Now he's going to be his father with all his memories, feelings, and knowledge, take his place so he can be one in the world. The father misjudged. I think it's freaking cool. That's freaking cool. Go back to 93 when this is being delivered. Picture Bonaventura hearing this stuff and going like, okay, my mind's blown. My mind's revolutionary. So what do they call one of the series? The Revolution? Revolution? You're so stupid. They did not understand the work. Now, Joel Silver, remember that robot-like agents? Thanks for letting me go. What does Joel Silver do? In the Throne case, when they have their own supplied attorney as a defense attorney with a suspended license, throwing my case and running the clock out, having access to all my evidence, Joel Silver gets all my work. They don't have any working drafts. They stay on tape. They have no working drafts, which is going to be in our case coming up after we educate the public. No working drafts. How do you write the Matrix without working drafts? You hold up the screenplay and use the storyboard. Really stupid idea, Joel Wachowski's, but anyway, got away with it so far. So what happens is you've got this whole thing where, oh, I lost my train of thought now. Wait, oh my God, I just lost it. I'm thinking layers. I think in layers. And so I just lost one layer to another layer. So I confess. But okay, anyway, there's a scene I was going to talk about. Let's go back to you because I got so many layers now firing. And that's, the work is written this way. The work is written this way in layers that go so many ways. So you see how the author's mind works in layers? It's not crazy. It's genius. It's not crazy. So they call geniuses crazy. But I can think clearly and have all my emotions intact, but think clearly on all these layers like Minority Report. And then what happens is you put this for an audience, so it's all written down, and they get to experience that. They all do their own take on it, put their own personal story in it, fill in the blanks, and it becomes their story. They can turn to their neighbor and think, what do you think of it? What do you think? And it brings people together.
Right.
That's what it was designed to do. So I can't not talk, I can't speak apart from being a genius dialogue. I can't. I think in layers, I talk that way. I can't help it. I'm thinking layers all the time. So anyway, go ahead.
No, this is great because obviously the fact that this was created by you and you know exactly why you put certain scenes, what the inspiration was, what the backstory or thought was, if you will, and then, you know, how could anyone take a work of art and make changes when they don't understand what it means in the first place, right? Which was evident from the way they lifted and put things in or left things out, you know, in that way. So I guess the conclusion really of all this is that the world has never really had the opportunity to see what this story was all about.
Never. And they're pushing me. The Warner Brothers staff are pushing me to, and Disney's doing it too. Disney's playing nice cop, bad cop with me.
Okay.
With Bob Iger and the rest of them. They're trying to say like, come on in, we'll work with you. We'll talk with you. You can be a script doctor. We'll set you up the finest resorts. So Disney's been playing this game with me where it's like, you know, we'll bring you in, but I'd be laundering other people's work. I don't want to do that. Then
so they want to bring you in to fix, I don't know what
creative kind of like almost a shadow creative director.
Okay.
I would be off the radar. They said I wouldn't be known, but I'd be the richest man in Hollywood.
Okay. Now
there's your concept. The Mel Gibson syndrome, I guess.
Right. So, all right. So we're gonna have to stop so we could go into part 3 next time. And we're going to be incorporating a lot of the examples of the visuals that go with the story, you know, with everything you've said and kind of the evidence backup information, right? We're going to work together to make sure that's all inserted the right way, which if you're watching it now, it already has been. So you can have Tom's account and then some of the backup that he's referring to. But I have one last thing I wanted to just ask you. Just a impromptu thought. So you have this script that you created that was adulterated and changed and produced, and the world thinks that's the Matrix, blah, blah, blah. What's going to happen with the original script from where
the original script's going to be made? It's going to be made intact. Now, one of the things that Disney and the others have done, I love the smile on this, because like they've been trying to say, let's change it. They even sent people from Sophia Stewart to me, who claims to be the Mother Matrix that was supposed to handle me, promised 5 to 7 million to handle me. That's the story of how they, you know, how far they go. And it's like other players from Disney have said, let's do it, but we'll make it a mix. Even the guy from Cypher Man, from the studios, Cypher Man, Anderson guy, He came to me in long text connected with the Stewart people saying, let's do a blend of the Immortals with Cypherman. What does that achieve? Nothing. If we do it intact the way it's copyrighted, we have the experience intact. It was perfected, I felt like. As a writer, I felt it was perfected to lift the ceiling on what's possible artistically and have people experience layered feeling and thinking and creativity. Have them experience it to encourage youth to do the same thing. Layered feeling brings our world together and advances us in the most dynamic ways. When you feel in layers, when you think in layers, that's why I got awards for my work, is layers, thinking in layers. Not one note on the piano, but a symphony.
Well, it occurs to me that as we move into kind of the quantum age and the financial system and all these great things that are going to be happening, people having more wealth and prosperity, there's also the idea of being humanitarian and having projects. And I know there are several people that at least I've spoken to, who say what they would like to do when they have the funds to do it is to have film studios that have integrity to educate and bring stuff that isn't this propagandized information. So I think from where you sit right now, I think there's going to be over the course of the next, say few years, 5 years, whatever it is, you're going to have a whole new slew of people that have the integrity and the desire to educate and show humanity truths, which obviously that's where the Matrix comes from, right? The Immortals, where it all comes from. So I think that's, amazing that your goal is to actually bring the true story out. So let's do this. Let's for everybody's watching, we're gonna bring you part 3. And Tom, this was amazing as always. What happens with you is not only do you think on layers, but your brain is so fired up all the time and you have so much creativity. So I try to kind of do it so we could bring it out methodically to fill in some of the details.
Thank you.
So
You did a
people
great
understand.
job. You did a great job. I mean,
thank you. Yeah.
I had to have a world where we fit. People like myself and like ourselves, we didn't fit in. Teachers didn't know what to do with us. They're like, oh my God, you're gifted, whatever. But it's like a world where we can do this with hope, compassion, love, and layers of all that together and not be thought that we're crazy, but actually think, oh my God, this is dynamic. Kids respond to it, people respond to it, and films ignite when you have layers. But don't give them to failed people. We got to stop this failed system of in-house failures, taking the work and getting credit for it when they don't even care about people. It's like we need to put the right people back in place. And we need to go back to the patron system too. Back in Shakespeare's time and, where they had patrons sponsoring certain artists. We need to go back to that. It's hard being on the grid and trying to do your art when you're trying to survive at the same time, especially when you're set upon. These studios know to do this, to put you down, to take your work and launder you like a bleeding bear for medicine. So what we need to do is actually restore something like a mentoring system, a patron system. And I want to do that with studios I form later too, with others, but young people be off the grid. They just have to create. Just create. And the work is yours. I just want you to be able to.
Well, that's what we are, as humans, we are creators, and it's been stifled and, pushed down, and people are just trying to put food on the table, which isn't how we're supposed to be living, right? So that hinders all the creativity, not to mention everything else that they've done to us and continue to do. But I think getting back to our topic, I think we do see this system failing miserably and coming down. So we're in like a transition right now.
We are in a big transition. Let me just point something out. You just took me right to it. I love it that you did. What was one of the big messages in the Immortals? And they're trying to mock me for this. It wasn't a Nazi show like Man in the High Castle. But what it was I put characters that fit historically that would want 1,000 years of, program and stuff and immortality and things like this and be experimenting. Who fits the bill? These characters fit the bill. These historic characters. I did my homework. Then they strip it into say architect. But the thing is, Joel Silver says he doesn't make art, he acquires it. Goering said the same thing in World War II, that he was acquiring all the art. He lived like a king for a long time. He said it was great years. The problem is we never stopped World War II. We absorbed the Nazis. And Alan Dulles, the head of the CIA, which the CIA should have been broken in 1,000 pieces. Yes. And what happened to Kennedy for that statement? I'm thinking the same statement. And what's going on is this piece echoed that the agencies are the problem. It's the CIA that's actually the top Smith is part of. They didn't like that. It's revealing what's going on. And the Nazis never left. We employed them. Alan Dulles out of Bern, Switzerland, was doing Operation Sunrise with Paperclip and wanted Goering to be brought over to the US. So we're bringing all these SS and all these Nazis over to our country. We never let it go. We simply wanted to employ them as something, a buffer against communism was excused. We're a Nazi state still. And so what we need to do is finally end World War II. We need to let go, dare to let go, and live. And let this end, and now make it the age of artists. The Aquarius age.
Well, Aquarius, right? And I think to your point, I think we are coming to the end of that. And I think that the problem is that people don't know. That's our job, right? To keep enlightening people as to what the real story is and not the nonsense they see on mainstream TV that just keeps them preoccupied and distracted from going
distracted. You're absolutely
inside.
right. Well, that's why Trump calling this the greatest story, Roseanne Barr calling the greatest story, people saying like they're stepping up and doing this. That's like being a patron. They're doing it.
Yes.
As I said, all Trump's family knows. So that's why I wrote it, to make that difference, to end that system, to bring the new one in, and to have where the good people with compassion lead the way. And now it's happening. So we are, in a sense, getting our patron system in place to bring the better world. And that's why the piece was written. And God bless you for doing this. Thanks.
Yeah, well, God bless you. And I think that's a beautiful way to end. So we will be back at you with part 3. And Tom, thank you again for being here and enlightening everyone with this amazing experience that you've been through. And we'll see you next time.
Sounds good.
Hey, ELISA V here. We all know that legal matters can be costly and stressful. Finding the right representation and dealing with high retainers and hourly bills adds up fast. But what if I told you there's a way to have legal insurance just like your health or car insurance? LegalShield has leveled the playing field. From just $29.95 a month, you get access to lawyers for personal legal matters. From traffic tickets to real estate issues or trust matters, help is just a tap away on your phone. Call or text 516-493-1742 and use code ELISA Legal to start your journey to legal protection today.